Welcome back to Studio 73, and you're watching the Suffolk Sports Report. I'm your host, Di Pajeski. We have a great show for you today. It's awards week in baseball. Who are the winners? We also have the latest in Boston sports, some new faces, and the latest rankings. Cue the intro.
Hey guys, Lucky here from the Boston Celtics, and you're about to watch the Suffolk Sports Report.
Oh, that's a catch. Tatum drives down and throws it down. Pressure was saved by Rash on his belly. Way back it carries. And that ball is gone.
And it's time. The MLB Awards week just wrapped up, and we have your Managers of the Year, Rookies of the Year, Cy Young winners, and your MVPs. Let's start with Manager of the Year. As expected in the NL, we have Giants manager Gabe Kapler, who led his team to league-best 107 wins, despite preseason projections that had them in the mid-70s wins. They have one of the oldest rosters in the MLB, but somehow outpaced the Padres and the loaded Dodgers. In the AL, we have Kevin Cash, who has won the award back-to-back. Nothing much to say here except for squeezing the most out of his $70 million roster en route to a 100-win season. Moving on to Rookie of the Year, we have Randy Arozarena beating out his teammate Wander Franco and Luis Garcia from the Astros in the AL. And Jonathan India from the Reds beating out Dylan Carlson from the Cardinals and Trevor Rogers from the Marlins. Arozarena posted a 20-homer, 20-steal season and an .815 OPS, highest among AL rookies. I'd say Wander Franco is the better player with the higher ceiling, but playing the full season definitely played in Randy's favor. Jonathan India, meanwhile, led all rookies with an elite WAR of 3.9 and an .835 OPS thanks to his .376 on-base percentage. Up next, we have the Cy Young Award, and in the AL, we have Robbie Ray from the Blue Jays, while in the NL, we have Corbin Burnes from the Brewers. Ray capped off his career best year with a 2.84 ERA and led all AL pitchers in WAR. Burnes' win came with some controversy as he only pitched 167 innings and made only 28 starts compared to fellow finalist Zach Wheeler, who pitched 213 innings. However, Burnes did post the highest strikeout rate, third best walk rate, and held opponents to 199 batting average. Before we move on to the MVP, let me talk about Garrett Cole for a second. He was the only finalist to no-show at the Cy Young Award show. Mind you, he knew that he wasn't going to win the award. What a shame. From stammering in press conferences when asked about Spider Tack, to getting pulled in the third inning of a do-or-die playoff game, to now being the biggest baby in baseball. Enjoy that $324 million contract, Yankee fans. All right, now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the most valuable players. In the NL, your finalists, Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr., and your winner, drumroll please, Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper becomes the fifth ever player to win an MVP for two different teams. He won with a slash line of .309 batting average, .429 on-base percentage, and .615 slugging, and led in weighted runs created plus. And in the AL, your finalists, Shohei Ohtani, Vlad Guerrero Jr., and Marcus Semien. And your winner, who else but Shohei Ohtani, unanimous, undisputed MVP. And second Japanese MVP since Ichiro. 46 homers, 100 RBIs, 103 runs, 26 steals, while going 9-2 with a 3.18 ERA and 156 strikeouts in 130 and a third innings. Just historic. No one's ever done this before. Not even Babe Ruth. My Japanese mom is so happy, and she's his biggest fan. Now turning to Boston sports, the Boston Celtics seem like they've turned things around since the last time we were on air, but they're still figuring things out. Here's our Celtics correspondent, Devin DeStefano, for Dishin' It with Dev.
Welcome back to Dishin' It with Dev. The Boston Celtics are currently 9th in the Eastern Conference standings and sit below just 500 with a 7-8 record. The Celtics are 3-3 on the season without Jaylen Brown in the lineup after he went down with a hamstring injury. However, without Brown, the offense has been lackluster, averaging just over 102 points per game over the past 6 games. With a scoring output like that, you won't win many games in this league, and an inconsistent play from Jason Tatum certainly doesn't help either. Just for reference, Tatum is currently shooting a career-low 39.6% from the field and 32.5% from three. Although the Celtics team has been mediocre so far this season, one shining light has been Dennis Schroeder. In Brown's absence, Schroeder has averaged just over 22 points per game, proving that he can step up when the Celtics are in dire need of some offense. To the Celtics' credit, their defense has not been the issue. They're allowing just over 106 points per game, which ranks 16th best in the NBA. I know those numbers aren't eye-popping, but they have played well enough to get the job done on most nights. Now they need their offense to rise to the occasion. And that uptick in offense we've been looking for could come sooner rather than later. Brown is expected to return for Friday's matchup against the Lakers. And to make things more interesting, LeBron James has a strong chance of returning to the lineup as well. That's all for Dishing It with Dev. Back to you, Di.
Thanks for that, Dev. Moving on, let's see how the Bruins are doing so far this season. Here's Trevor Rafferty with our newest segment, Pucking Around.
Welcome to Pucking Around. I'm Trevor Rafferty. A year removed from a season unlike any other, the Boston Bruins are back at it, jockeying for position in what is once again arguably the toughest division in the NHL. The club comes in at 5th in the Atlantic, just behind their original 6 rivals, the Detroit Red Wings, who have looked much better in the early season after finishing 7th in the briefly realigned Central Division last year. Also ahead of the Bruins in the powerhouse Atlantic are the Stanley Cup champion Lightning, perennial first-round exits, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and a Florida Panthers team that stormed back to relevancy a year ago. The Bruins have a tall task ahead of them if they want to finally finish the quest for the team's 7th Stanley Cup, which has faced unfortunate setbacks in recent years at the hands of some untimely injury trouble in the back end, a global pandemic, and some glorious spouting Midwesterners. As we move forward, to the midway point of the season, Boston does have some bright spots to look forward to on the ice. The perfection line has looked, well, perfect in the early going. The Bruins' talented trio has accumulated 45 points through 13 games, which has seen beloved Bruins pest Brad Marchand net a team-high 8 goals, and the other 2 stars earn a hat trick each in the early games. Outside of the top forward line, Taylor Hall and freshly extended defenseman Charlie McAvoy have looked ready to pick up where they left off in the summer. Don Sweeney is no doubt laughing up in that corner office on Causeway Street as he thinks back to the 2 second-round picks he gave up to bring Hall to Boston last spring. McAvoy continues to grow into the next defensive corner piece on a storied back pairing that has always featured a touch of greatness from Zdeno Chara to Ray Bourque and, of course, Bobby Orr. And maybe, just maybe, if we all close our eyes and click our heels, he'll finally bring home the Norris Trophy that Boston fans have been lobbying for since the former Terrier was selected 14th overall back in 2016. Looking ahead, the Bruins have a tough game coming up Saturday against the Philadelphia Flyers squad that handed the Bees their first loss of the season. After that, they've got a couple of should-be gimme games against the Sabres and Canucks, sprinkled in among a challenging schedule to finish out the month, featuring a division leader in the Calgary Flames and a few old-school rivalry games. That's it for Pucking It Around. Back to you, Di.
All right, thanks for that, Trevor. Now it's time for another new segment, Alfredo's Ranking. So we're all here to react to Alfredo's top 10 NBA duos, so take it away, Alfredo.
Thank you, Di. Before we get started, I have 3 honorable mentions that did not make my top 10 list. My first honorable mention is Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. They're not really a duo anymore because they added Kyle Lowry, which makes them a trio, so I wouldn't really count them as a duo. My second honorable mention is Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. DeRozan joined forces with LaVine this offseason. They've been doing really well and made some noise at the start of this first quarter of the year, but it's too early to put him in the top 10. My third honorable mention is Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. When on the court, I would personally have them in my top 10, but right now, we have no idea what Ben Simmons is doing. He's currently not speaking to the team. He has no desire to play with them, so that's why they're out of my top 10. Now going into the top 10 list, I have Trae Young and John Collins. Young and Collins squeaked into my top 10 duo list as their performance in the playoffs last year was spectacular. They averaged 43 points a game as a duo and upset the Sixers in the second round of the playoffs. They barely squeaked into my top 10 because they are now having a slow start with a record of 7-9. What do you guys think of that?
I think I'll have to see who else is in your top 10. I'm personally not a fan of Trae Young, so I always kind of undervalue them. I tend to, so maybe if Devin has a better idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're right where they should be, personally. I am, unlike Di, I'm a fan of Trae Young. I think he's talented. He's got a lot to offer. I think this duo will only continue to get better as they progress because they're relatively young in the NBA, so.
I agree. It's a slow start to the season, and I feel like if they would have picked it up at the start of the season, they would have been higher, but just right now, I'm not sure what they think.
Also with how they play too, they play more of as a team with all the wing players that they have with Hunter, Herter, and Cam Reddish.
They have a lot of depth on that team.
Yeah, so I don't think of them as when you think of a dynamic duo.
All right.
Maybe for the Lobs, but
yeah. Oh
still.
Yeah, that's cool. So for number 9, I got Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. The only reason why I don't have them higher is because of the consistency of CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard's defense. Their offense is spectacular, one of the best offensive duos in the league, but their defense on that team, and personally them two, is the reason why they've only made it to one Western Conference Finals in their careers, and they've been together for God knows how long. So what do you guys think of that?
So I personally would have them, I think I'd put them a little bit higher, just because Lillard and McCollum, I think, complement each other really well. I mean, you did say their offense, and I understand they didn't get to the Western Conference, but I think it's not just reliant on them. They're the bench for those Blazers teams, and a lot of those counterparts didn't really help them. But I think them solely are a great duo together. They just need some support in the back end.
Right. I thought going into this, when I put them at number 9, it's their backcourt on the other team, Jamal Murray and Gary Harris even last year torched them in the playoffs last year. They got swept in the first round. Even Jamal Murray wasn't in there, but it was Monte Morris, Gary Harris, and they completely torched them, and they got swept. So I just thought their defense is so inconsistent as a duo, and that's why I put them in number 9. So.
Yeah, they've always been injured a lot too. So how the team's structured is they kind of funnel everything to Nurkic, but Nurkic is in and out of the lineup a lot. So it's a little tough going for them.
All right.
Well, thanks for watching this week's Suffolk Sports Report. We'll see you guys next time.